following program is classified G. It's suitable for all ages.
Good evening and thank you for joining us on Business Best tonight. This is a platform where we showcase the best in the business, and we will be introducing to you people who have excelled in their particular field in order to showcase their latest developments in their respective industry. Now today on the show we'll be talking about a company called Intent. Basically they're a group of consultants who will take up the responsibility in handling your marketing or managing your social media platforms. To give us a better introduction to this company, it's my pleasure to invite Pravinth Deepan, who is the co-founder of Intent. Pravinth, thank you very much for taking the time to join me on the show today.
Thank you so much, Shonali, for having me. First of all, thank you for having a platform like this for people like us, for us to come and promote and speak about our business and things that we can highlight in the business in Sri Lanka. Thank you for giving us the opportunity.
To start off the discussion, Pravinth, why don't you tell our audience about what Intent is all about and what you all do in your company and how it all started?
Okay, so Intent we started in 2015. It was started by my wife and I. So we are the co-founders in the business. We started the company as a consultancy agency, and then we developed into social media and a digital marketing agency. And Intent has been a birth child of ours from the beginning itself. And we handle mainly social media currently because we feel like there is a complete tremendous growth and a vacuum in the market for that type of industry in Sri Lanka. So we decided that it's best that we move in that direction.
So Pravinth, what were you doing before this and what made you want to start up this business in the first place?
It's a funny story though, because from the beginning of my career, I have always wanted to start my company. And it was a thought that I had growing up. It was always to work for my own self. You know, there's independence in working for yourself. It's always good to have that freedom when you're working. And thank God, in many areas, in any firm that I work for, whether it's a company I work for, it was always that freedom was given by my employers. And when the time arises for me to start my business, I started in 2015. It was such a dream come true because you work so hard in different companies. Even the company that I work for, there was this passion, and they always come and tell me, you take the ownership. So my advice to so many young people is, even though you're working for someone else, give that ownership, give that commitment towards the company that you're working for, and make sure that they see the progress. They see that you have taken that stakeholdership and move forward in that company. When you eventually decide to start your own company, you have already had that experience, that exposure of starting and working for your own self.
That's so true. So when you're getting into the field of business, why did you select this particular field of digital marketing? Where did you see the success in that?
So like I mentioned, it was more of a consultancy agency. So we had few other areas that we worked on, signages, and we worked on a startup specializing in working with different companies with a small scale and going into companies and restructuring and working alongside with the business owners. But the social media actually came into play in recent times in 2017, 2018, when we saw the boom coming into play, and there was so much of potential in that market. And we thought, okay, this is the direction we want to take our company forward in. As Intent's focus is on social media management.
So you feel in digital marketing, social media has the core strength of marketing anybody's business, or are there other platforms?
You're putting me on a spot right now. So in the sense of social media management, if you take the number of users in Sri Lanka, we have 11.3 million internet users, which is more than 50% of the Sri Lankan population are using internet, out of which 8.2 million social media users are there in Sri Lanka. It's a huge market, I would say. And taking into consideration different aspects of it, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, whether it's LinkedIn, or whether it's YouTube, each of this has their own culture, I would say, and the way they act on, and different approaches that we can reach out to the client and an end user.
When doing social media, digital marketing, what are some of the tips that you can give for companies or even an individual who's using social media in order to look forward to when they're advertising themselves or their company, what exactly should they look for?
So I always tell my clients, I said, don't overspend. Never come to a point where you need to spend so much of money on social media management or a company that handles. There is certain scenarios that you can actually, we call it the engaging organic reach, where you have to have engaging posts. That even if you take a look at a company, let's say you are into baking, you record your own video, you speak for yourself. It doesn't have to be such a major production. It can be a crappy setting, but it is you are promoting your product. That will have much more engagement than you going into a setting, hiring a model. Again, I have no issues for that. But you asked me a question, I'm telling you what's a cost-effective way of doing this. That has more engagement because people want to see who is behind the business. They want to see the faces. They want to see who are the other users. For an example, I will also give you a tip of having testimonials, having so many testimonials, people coming in genuinely saying, market is so vigilant, I would say, and they are very wise. They will know if you are paid for an advertisement. They will know if you are paid for a review. They will also know that somebody else is giving you a story. But then having that genuine approach towards the market and coming and say, okay, this is me, this is the product that I use, and this is my testimony towards the product. That will have an exposure and engagement much more than just a Facebook post or advertising that you might spend on your social media platforms.
So why do you think social media digital marketing is important for any company?
See, during the pandemic, we went through a tough time in the sense of market-wise. Physical approach was never there. And if you take the statistics, we were 23% more than what it was. It grew because people were at home. There was no brand awareness through physical presence. There was brand awareness through social media presence. So when you come to a particular stage of this type of a dynamic approach, you need to know that this is the time that you need to have a brand awareness throughout the platforms in social media. And social media is very dynamic. It keeps changing every 6 months. What you do 6 months back might not be relevant for us right now because it's such a dynamic market. And the question that you asked, the answer for that is, I feel like social presence, in the sense of when I mean social media presence, is vital for any business. Let's say you want to buy a product. First thing you do is you go and check online, Google, and type, okay, I want to buy a phone. Then if there's a specific phone that you want to buy, you go and check for the reviews from the person that you're going to buy the phone from. He might have a social media page. Then you see, okay, on the post, what are the comments they have put? Based on those, only you will go and purchase a phone. Your users are very smart. I mean, us users are very smart this time. They're not just going to, because you have a nice ad, just because your production is really good doesn't mean that you are convinced the end user to purchase the phone. It is that customer experience of what they see in your social media pages or what other people have said goes a long way when it comes to
That's what I also would like to agree with you on that, because a lot of people nowadays would probably want to know what other people think about the product, and they would base their purchase pointing their facts on that itself. Now, moving on to the next question. What were some of the challenges that you faced when you initially started this business?
So challenges, of course, each and every company goes through it.
Yes.
I feel the harder you fall, the harder you get up, and you understand that you're never going to fall the way that you felt previously. Those are experiences. In my life, in the business that we have, my wife and I have gone through, we have seen many challenges, to be honest with you. And those challenges, I always say, Albert Einstein's quote, insanity is doing the same thing all over again and again and again and expecting a different result. You need to know when you fail, what are the areas that you failed in. Make sure that you never fail in those areas. If you don't fail, you will never succeed. In the challenges wise, we went through when it comes to the staff, how we are going to market ourselves, what is the price point. At one point of time when other people, companies were going through a challenge, I had this particular client of mine, I said, you pay me whatever you can, because everybody is going through a tough time. I said, when you do good, you remember us. That type of an approach, a partnership approach and stakeholdership approach with a company goes a long way. We understand that as much as you go through challenges, your companies that you work with are going through the same challenges in their life. So that is one of the key things that I can say, challenges that we went through, whether to market ourselves or to advertise ourselves, because there are many great players in this market. And how you stand out of that, it's purely your culture of the company and the approaches that you take.
Something very important you said was standing out. Now, there are so many other marketing agencies out there, and you're one of them. What makes Intent stand out from the rest, and why would people choose your firm in order to give the trust to manage their social media accounts?
Before I get myself into trouble by promoting myself so much, there are amazing agencies, like I said. There are so many great agencies in Sri Lanka, and global exposure for them, the way they approach. I mean, so much talent in Sri Lanka when it comes to marketing agencies. If you ask me what makes us different, is that we see even a social media, I call it a bottleneck effect. Even that, we see it from a business aspect of it. Because of the exposure of what we have gone through, and what, as running businesses, as a startup specialist, as a consultant or a business consultant, different areas that I've worked in, it has given this unique point of, we see even social media from a business aspect of it. Example, that a campaign, if a client wants to do a campaign, we say, okay, what is your overall marketing approach towards this campaign? Then they come and say, okay, we have offline campaign going on like this. We have online campaign going like this. Then we would like Google advertisements going like that. So we assess the overall situation rather than looking at this bottleneck and saying, okay, social media management is this. You spend this amount of money, this is what you're going to get done. That is a normal way of looking at it. We don't look at it that way. If you're into electronic products, what are the aging products that you have that you can actually push forward and have that advertised, and give them, the consumer, the end quality or the price reduction through those products. So that is, we say, we look at social media from a business aspect of it, how it can contribute and integrate solutions given to them, where it will grow there and give them tangible results.
Right, Praveen. Thank you for that intent on that. And we'll have to go into a short commercial break. We'll be back soon. You're watching Business Best. Welcome back to Business Best, and we are in discussion with Pravinth Deepan, who is the co-founder of Intent. I think, Pravinth, in the first segment, you gave a very good idea about what Intent is all about and what your goals are. Something I want to ask you is, now you've been in the field for like 5 to 7 years now. You said you started in 2015.
Yeah.
In your experience, what can you comment on the social media users? Has it increased over the years, and do you think people are online more now?
So basically, like I mentioned earlier, there were 11.3 million users in Sri Lanka, active users. In recent times, the last statistics says 8.3 million users are social media users. They use social media. To be going further into that, there are 7.2 million users when it comes to Facebook, and out of which 98% of them use mobile platforms to log into Facebook and things like that. So it has increased. And previous segment we were discussing about how it has increased during the time of pandemic. By 23% it has increased. So it's a dynamic growth, and depending on how people are, and it shifts. Now social media in general, there are different platforms that contains as a social media. It can be Facebook, it can be Instagram, it can be TikTok. TikTok is another trending application that has revolutionized the industry globally. And the number of TikTok users has gone drastically into higher levels. So those are the ones who contributes to growth of the. You might have a Facebook account, you might not have a Facebook account, but collectively there's an increase in social media users in Sri Lanka.
So in a way, would you say that the pandemic actually helped your business grow?
Of course, it has helped me, and that's one of the reasons that we have been focusing more on social media management. And we felt like, okay, there should be opportunities given to companies to restructure a bit. When we go into partnership with, the reason I use the word partnership, I said we always go as a stakeholder, not as a service provider. We want to grow in your business. When we go into a brand new company, we say, okay, let's grow the baby together. That is the approach that we want to take with the companies, making sure that we grow together and build that strong business partnership with different companies.
Now, since this firm is relatively new in this industry, now when companies are putting their hands into your business and giving you the responsibility of managing their social media, you have a lot of responsibility and you have to take up that. And what sort of assurance can you give to other businesses, and what can you say to the people who want to enroll with your firm and give you that responsibility? What can you say in order to gain their trust?
So we have a motive or a motto that we maintain. We say, never overpromise and underdeliver. Always underpromise and overdeliver. One of the key areas that we have said is, like I mentioned to you, like we work 7 days as much as we can. And this dynamic, anytime the market changes, the environment changes in social media, at any given time the client should be able to reach out to your agency and say, okay, I need this advertisement. Yes, you need to prepare, you need to have a social media plan, you need to have the structure, but there are ad hocs. Certain times, there are global contributions, whether it's a war, whether it's something trending, a song is trending, and the client riding on that hashtag. Those are the things that you should be able to get in touch with the agency or the media partner that you're working with and able to communicate and say, okay, let's put this out tomorrow, or can we do this in 2 days? Not pushing them to do it in 2 days, but understanding that vacuum or the value of acting fast, I would say, is very important. And we have been able to work with clients who have been demanding in those sense and been able to work with them and giving that solution for them.
So what's the initial response you received when you launched your company? Did people take it very well?
They always said, okay, stick to what you know best. That's the normal advice people give most of us, right? When you're good at something, you make sure that you get better at it. Design has been my passion for a while. As like any other passion, I always had the design as my passion. And going into this field, I felt comfortable because I felt comfortable that I can actually do something for the client. The best part of this being in this business is you see both end of the story. You see both side of the coin actually. You see from the consumer part of it and you see from the end users part of it. Where from a client, if you ask a design from an agency, what you like to get. So that aspect and the knowledge, we already had that. Because we used to be working with, I was giving certain business to different agencies and we expecting that type of a approach from them. So we understood what the client needs. And sometimes, Shonali, the clients might not need what they want at that time. But with our expertise and giving them direction and saying, why don't you do this particular change? Don't you think it will feel better? Don't you think that will look much better? Why don't you do this campaign right now? That small push to a client goes a long way.
Has it ever gone wrong for you when you were handling the social media platforms of businesses?
Many times. I would say, if in the sense of many times means you always give a direction to the client, how you want to go forward in many ways. Certain campaigns work, certain campaigns don't work. And understanding why it didn't work is very important. Like I mentioned to you, social media is very, very dynamic, the way it acts, it reacts and things like that. And in Sri Lanka, we have trilingual, we have 3 different languages. Just because you think in English, sometimes the approach that you might have might not go into the grassroots levels. It might not go into the villages. Yeah, certain times things have not worked out. But thank God for the fact that we have been able to work with the clients who have been understanding. And it is not a single-hand decision, I would say. It's always a collective approach from the client's input as well as from our part of it. So,
how are you planning to expand your business? Are you still focusing on corporates only, or how are you planning to expand it?
Social media is a very it's a very vast type of approach, Even you can have your own page and you can have your followers and you can have a company like us managing your fan base. So expansion with social media is huge for us, and we are looking at the next few steps to see how best we can go into the next level and increase the number of clients that we have and increase the number of personalities, the influencers that we work with. We want to collectively include them into a platform where they can showcase what they can offer to the clients. Because I feel like there is a vacuum for that when it comes to influencers and things like that. So those are the areas that we want to expand into. and see how best we can move forward in this business.
All right. Now, when considering the global pandemic, now as you mentioned earlier, it was somewhat sort of an advantage for you to grow in your business. But when considering the whole world, everybody was affected by it. Businesses fell, the economies used to fall, but you were one of the people like. I've been having interviews like this so many times, and people used to come and tell me, yes, the pandemic actually helped their businesses to grow. But if at all, did you face any challenges because of the global pandemic that we faced?
Economic crisis, I think we face few issues with regards to how we would like to, whether it's a boosting of advertisement and things like that. That actually hit us in different ways. But we were able to work around it many times because, like I said, we tend to promote organic reaches, engagement postings. So there where we advertise less in certain clienteles and say, okay, why don't we do this type of a product or this type of a post where you might have a different approach towards it. It did globally have an effect in us when it comes to the currency issues. But other than that, it was pretty much a good road for us to go forward for.
All right. Thank you again, Pravinth. I think this is the end of our show and this is all the time we have. Again, thank you very much for taking the time to join with me and share your ideas about the business that you are doing right now. Thank you again.
Thank you, Shinali. Thanks so much.
And that was our episode on Business Best Tonight. We will be back again next week with another new product or service that will interest you. Just in case you couldn't watch us on air, you can always rewatch on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Derana English. I'm Suzanne Shinali. Stay safe and have a good night.